about it. In the meantime, speaking of finding out more about things, we have no idea what has happened to this baby. What has happened to this baby? Do we know what happened to this baby? George Santos just left Tim Burchett's office with a baby in his arms. When asked if it was his baby, he said, not yet. So, anyway, that's George Santos. We'll get to that in a little bit. But, you know, I guess that's what Congress gives you when you leave. The weird part about that is that, like, I assume when I see a congressperson with a baby, I assume it's an adrenochrome baby, right? But, like, when the baby is still alive, it's much harder to extract the adrenochrome. So I don't know why he got the adrenochrome baby before instead of just, like, going to Planned Parenthood and purchasing it. Mom, it's a joke. I'm being sarcastic. Why are you listening to my stream? Put your headphones in, please. Goes, what are you talking about? What are these things? Oh my God. Anyway. The Macy's, thank you for the playlist. All right, we'll start off with George Jebediah Santos, and then we'll move on to Israel. Palestine, of course, we're going to be covering that as well today because the 6-day truce is over and the relentless bombing campaign has started. Judging by some of the initial devastation I've seen thus far, it does seem to me like the second part of the ethnic cleansing campaign is supposed to be more quote-unquote restrained, but we'll see how it goes. But let's do
this
George
is an ABC News special report.
Good morning, I'm Terry Morano. We are coming on the air for a historic moment unfolding on Capitol Hill. New York Republican Congressman
Yeah, we're going to be
George
watching
Santos
the Jabri vid too.
has just been expelled from Congress. He is only the 6th person in American history to be voted out of the House of Representatives. The results of the bipartisan vote really weren't that close. A 2/3 majority of the members present was needed, so the House is now made up of 221 Republicans and 213 Democrats. The final vote, 311 voting to expel Santos, 114 voting against it, and 2 members voting present. This vote narrows the already small majority held by Republicans in the House of Representatives. Prior to the vote, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson told Republican members to vote their conscience, saying he himself would not be voting to expel George Santos. But many Republicans, especially the New York delegation, decided they have had enough. Santos, who was inside the House chamber at the time of the vote, he's been a lightning rod for controversy since before he was even sworn into office. His ousting follows the release of a blistering report from the House Ethics Committee, which accused him of stealing money from his campaign for personal use, including paying for rent, for designer clothes, for Botox, and even for an adult website.
I mean, queen shit. King
We are
shit.
going to go now.
You know what I mean? It's just like that's what you're supposed to do. What am I supposed to do? Fucking spend it on what? Like lame ass bullshit, like trying to get reelected? I'm sorry. I didn't realize that. What is there, a law in the books that tells me I can't have fun with my with my campaign contributions? I'm sorry. Oh wait, you're telling me there are laws against it? Hold on. It's yeah, I I took the be gay, do crime mantra quite literally.
The ethics panel spent months interviewing 40 witnesses, pouring over 172,000 pages
This country
of documents
sucks.
to reach that conclusion. Santos has also been indicted by a federal grand jury. He's pled not guilty to 23 federal counts, including fraud and identity theft. Throughout it all, he has been defiant, insisting that he would force this vote. Now he's lost it. So let's get right to ABC senior congressional correspondent Rachel Scott. Rachel, this was is a historical moment. George Santos, the first person expelled from Congress who was not either a traitor to the country. Three were Confederates who had been expelled previously or been convicted of crimes. He's been convicted of nothing, but the House decided he had enough.
Terry, we just watched history unfold in the House today. Congressman George Santos has officially been expelled from Congress, making him the sixth member of the House of Representatives to be forced out, the very first Republican member of the House to be forced out of Congress. This momentum has been growing for months, and this could not have happened today without the support of Republicans. In the end, you had more than 100 Republicans say that they support this push to expel Congressman George Santos from the House. From the moment that he walked through the doors here on Capitol Hill, he has been defiant. He's been accused of lying about his professional resume and his background. Then he pleaded not guilty to those 23 federal charges, including identity theft, unemployment fraud, and wire fraud. But it really was this latest report from the House Ethics Committee, which was blistering, accusing him of blatantly stealing from his campaign, using that money to fund trips to Atlantic City, even on Botox designer goods, that really caused this momentum to start to grow. This push from
I'm sorry. I love how gay his crimes are. Like, it's awesome. Like that other guy who like was also criminally charged. What was his name? Fuck. The one who I think he was in California, the representative from California who like had his son buy a bunch of V-Bucks too, and also he was like buying vapes and shit. What was his name? Like that was very bro-y, right? Taking campaign contributions. Duncan Hunter, yes, Duncan Hunter taking campaign contributions and then like spending it on. What did he use it on? Not to be confused with Duncan Hunter Senior, by the way. This is Duncan Hunter Jr. He was sentenced to 11 months in prison, scheduled to begin in January 2021, but then he was pardoned by President Donald Trump. And his crime was taking campaign contributions. In February 2017, Hunter's campaign offices were raided by the FBI as a part of the criminal investigation. Agencies, computers, other electronics, financial reports. They also seized a hard drive from the election CFO, an Alexandria, Virginia-based company that handled campaign finances on Hunter's behalf. The raid was not reported to the media until August 2017 after court documents intended to be filed under seal were accidentally released to the public. On March 2017, House Ethics Committee revealed that Hunter was under a Department of Justice criminal investigation for campaign finance violations and that it was deferring its own investigation as a result. The Office of Congressional Ethics report stated Representative Hunter may have converted tens of thousands of dollars of campaign funds from his congressional campaign committee, listen to this, for personal use to pay for family travel, flights, utilities, healthcare, school uniforms, and tuition, jewelry, groceries, and other goods, services, and expenses. Some of those goods, services, and expenses included vapes and also video games, if I'm remembering correctly, which was awesome. Hunter said that he repaid the money to the campaign and denied wrongdoing. He also announced that his wife would no longer receive a $3,000 per month salary for consulting with the campaign. Yeah, he bought Steam games, yeah. Now, of course, that was Duncan Hunter, who was pardoned and did not serve his prison sentence. He was supposed to go to jail for almost a year, 11 months. He got out. Okay. In a statement issued through his lawyers, Hunter said that he repaid his campaign approximately $60,000. Hunter returned from international travel in order to address the issues around his campaign funds, promising to correct any inappropriate or mistaken charges. Meanwhile, the indictment also alleged that Hunter spent campaign money on personal relationships with 5 women in Washington, D.C. Anyway, This is a different Hunter, not Hunter Biden. So Republicans didn't give a shit about that. But George Santos, on the other hand, was a slay queen.
Republicans to say he needs to be forced out. And so now here you have it. Here we are. They expressed some concerns about the precedent that this would set. That's why you saw every single member of House leadership, including the new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, reject this push to expel Congressman George Santos. But this is effective immediately. As of right now, Congressman George Santos is no longer a member of Congress, Terry.
It really is a remarkable moment and a precedent, as you say. But for practical purposes now, the House Republican majority has been narrowed in the House of Representatives, already very slim. It's now 221 to 213. What happens next now that the 3rd district, a congressional district of New York, doesn't have a member of Congress? What happens next?
Yes, and Terry, Republicans were worried about losing a lot of their majority here, too. They went from a 4-seat edge now to a 3-seat edge. That is going to make things more complicated with pushing through their own priorities in the House chamber. And so, as I mentioned, this is now effective.
There are so many aspects of this that's hilarious, all the way from the fact that the Democratic Party was so goddamn confident in their districts in New York and so reactionary in their messaging that they lost an important seat in a district that is like otherwise a blue district, to a guy like George Santos, who had so much oppo research on him, that the fact that every single person in the New York Democratic Party was not immediately fired or like thrown in jail for the malpractice that, in my opinion, constitutes extreme criminal levels of negligence, okay? If you're a staffer, if you are a staffer and you did not blast all of the George Santos lies leading up to the fucking election and just kind of drop the ball on that and then lost, you should straight up, you should just go to jail. You should go to jail. Skip go. Don't collect $200. Go to fucking jail. Okay? Yeah, Santos district isn't even slightly blue. You mean not is even slightly blue. Isn't even slightly blue. It's a blue district. It was a collaborative effort that the Democratic Party basically lost. The New York Democratic Party especially basically lost that district. Okay? A guy with that level of opposition research in a blue ass fucking state, a Democratic stronghold, is not supposed to win. Okay? That's a ridiculous situation. It's insane. Anyway, so the fact that, I mean, no matter how bad Strong Island, Staten Island, no matter how fucking reactionary they get, no man with George Santos' background is supposed to win elections in a place like New York. No man with George Santos' background is supposed to even get through the Republican side. Okay? That's another way that that's another part of the part of the situation that I find rather odd, because like, the Republicans, of course, vet their own candidates. They're supposed to vet their own candidates. The fact that even the Republican guys were like, even the Republicans actually let this one slip is wild. Okay? Is wild. Because his entire background is crazy. Anyway. So all of that stuff, I mean, this entire story is wonderful. We followed the George Santos story closely because, I mean, he's the GOAT. Yeah, New York Times didn't even pick it up. Empire Rock, pretty much. But then, all of this stuff comes to light after his dub. Okay? All of this stuff comes to light. Then Kevin McCarthy has a really unique problem. A very slim majority in the House of Representatives, and he wants to stay in power. So what does he do? He defends George Santos, hoping that it'll just go away. George Santos, on the other hand, is a ride or die con man. He's not like the type of person who's like, I'm poor and that's why I need to steal this loaf of bread, or I need to steal this like designer bag so I can sell it so I can pay rent. George Santos is not doing crimes because he's desperate. He's doing crimes for the sake of doing crimes. He's doing it for the love of the game. So that's when you realize, like, oh, he's not going to stop, which he never did. And I told you guys this from the jump. If you go all the way back in time when the George Santos stuff was coming out, I told you a lot of the things that people yell at George Santos that we all joke about, that we all laugh about, are not necessarily crimes, like the whole reality, the lies that he told about how his parents died on 9/11. That was fake. How he was from Ukraine and also Jewish. That was also fake. All this stuff that I told you that his parents survived the Holocaust, also fake. None of that stuff will get you to lose your job. Okay? Lying about playing volleyball at the high school that he went to, which he didn't go to, lying about playing volleyball at the collegiate level, at the college that he went to that he didn't actually go to. All of this stuff is just padding your resume on steroids. But what I told you back then that he would actually land him in trouble is his campaign contributions, because that is a clear violation of the law. Okay? And he did that. He did the one thing you're not supposed to do in the United States of America. There's already so many amenities you get when you're running for Congress. There's already, it's open season to just like give unlimited funds to pretty much every politician by way of dark money PACs, super PACs. And he still was like, nope, YOLO. And here we are. The Republican Party finally, after the Ethics Committee investigation concluded, came to the conclusion themselves that he is now too much of a liability. Now, what I also find hilarious about this is that it turns out George Anthony DeValder Santos wasn't just stealing from homeless veterans. He wasn't just stealing from the American population. He wasn't just lying to his own voters. He apparently also allegedly stole from Republican congresspersons and their mothers. Like, please, dude, where's the clip? We got to roll the clip. I've never seen such a fucking insane. I don't even understand how he did this. Like, I saw this video yesterday and I was like, what are you saying? Does anyone have the video? Yeah, he's Robin Hood. Let me see if I can find it. Max Miller just sent this email to all the House Republicans, which he, by the way, also talked about on the floor of the House of Representatives. Max Miller did. Colleagues. All right. Oh, here it is. Let's watch this video and then we'll talk about the email. I promise you're not ready for this, okay? I promise you. You are not ready for what you are about to see. Here is Representative Max Miller, who had some things to say about George Santos.
Just very brief. I myself have been a victim of George Santos, and as well as other members of Congress, in terms of defrauding through public donations. I had received an ethics complaint from the FEC, which I had to spend tens of thousands to defend myself. You, sir, are a crook. I know I should direct my comments to the chair. I yield back.
Apparently, earlier this year, I learned the Santos campaign had charged my personal credit card and the personal card of my mother for contribution amounts that exceeded the FEC limits. Neither my mother nor I approved these charges or were aware of them. We have spent tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees in the resulting follow-up. I've seen a list of roughly 400 other people to whom the Santos campaign allegedly did this. I believe some other members of this conference might have had the same experience. While I understand and respect the position of those who will vote against the expulsion resolution, my personal experience related to the allegations and findings of the Ethics Committee compels me to vote for the resolution. Since I alluded to this on the floor yesterday and because of the significance of the question before us, I believe you're entitled to this further explanation for my position. He fucking, how? He was swiping cards? Like, what the fuck? Yeah, the best part about this is, you're right, Zenso Lipsist. How much you want to bet if he hadn't maxed it out and exceeded FEC limits, which is what, $2,700, I think? Which is why it's always funny whenever motherfuckers are like, Hassan, wow, the only political donations Hassan has ever made is to Bernie Sanders. And it's like, whatever, it's like $2,700. I forget what it is, or $3,300. Wow, that's a little amount of money. It's like, yeah, dumbass, more than that would be illegal, you fucking idiot. It's literally illegal. So stupid. Like, that used to be a fucking hater talking point where people would be like, wow, Hassan claims to care about political activism and he's only fucking given Bernie Sanders amounts that don't exceed the FEC legal limit? Idiot. Anyway. In all seriousness, Santos would be immortalized an American folk hero via Broadway musical within 20 years. Yes. Every lie George Santos is told by New York Magazine, updated this morning at 11:24 a.m. This article has to be updated every day for you to keep up to date with George Santos's lies. Because every new day is another opportunity for him to tell a lie. And also, every new day is an opportunity for us to find out about a lie that he told that he got away with. It's fucking awesome. This article is homophobic. It is. It is homophobic. He should be able to do it. Now, we talked about Max Miller, right? Well, there's a follow-up to the Max Miller clip. Let's take a look at what George Santos had to say after that.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from New York, Mr. Santos is recognized.
I'd like to move to have the gentleman from Ohio's words stricken from the record, please.
Gentleman's request is not timely, but the chair will remind all members to direct their remarks to the chair and not to others.
Gentleman's request is not timely, but I would remind members to direct their remarks to the chair. Gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker.
You ain't ready for this either. He is such a messy bitch.
Hypocrisy, as I mentioned. My colleague wants to come up here, call me a crook. Same colleague who's accused of being a woman beater. Are we really going to ignore the facts that we all have passed and we all have the media coming out against us on a daily basis?
Bro, he literally said, why is he bringing up the fact that I stole his and his mother's credit card and actually got them into legal trouble? Why is he bringing that up when he's a fucking accused wife beater? I love this. George Santos, you are a legend, okay? It's great. Keep revealing all the skeletons, okay? I am such a fan. Santos. Mr. Santos walked out of the chamber before the vote was finished, descending the House steps to a waiting car. Mr. Santos told reporters he was ready to turn the page on Congress. Why would I want to stay here, he said. To hell with this place. What, Mom? What is... What's going on, Mom? Yeah? Door's unlocked. Mom, there's someone at the door too. I'm just talking to the... Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna call it. Okay? Okay. Santos like a corruption elemental. He's the corruption of our government given in its physical form. He's a legend. He's fucking awesome. Okay? And you need to respect it. She's hurt and injured. You need to help her. I know. I am. I'm working on it. Everybody calm down. Okay?
Immediately. So in the next 7 to 10 days, we will see the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, call for a special election. The special election would then have to happen in the next 70 to 80 days after it is called. But one thing that is important to note here, there is no guarantee that a Republican can hang on to that district. That is a district that President Biden won. It's a district that Congressman George Santos flipped as a Republican, and it will be very tough for Republicans to keep that seat, Terry.
So much at stake, the precedent and the politics. Rachel Scott in Congress. Thanks very much. Our coverage continues on ABC News Live and abcnews.com as well. And we'll have a complete wrap-up on world news tonight. I'm Terry Moran. Have a good day.
This has been a special...
Fuck yeah, dude. Here is Giorgio Antonio DeValder Santos saying he expects to be expelled from Congress. Which, of course, did end up happening.
All right, get this. Just 2 hours from now, House lawmakers are expected to hold a vote to expel New York Congressman George Santos. It comes following the release of a scathing ethics report that includes campaign finance abuse. Congressman George Santos joins us with an exclusive interview ahead of the critical vote. We'll decide if you're going to be packing up your office today. Congressman, how do you think this vote's going to go? If 290 vote for you to be expelled, you're gone.
Well, Brian, look, this is the prerogative of the members of this House, right? If they
okay, the Botox is working, though. He does look snatched as a motherfucker. Excuse me. Like, you can't hate on him. You can't. Look at this. Look at his face. What happened?
choose to do so. I haven't whipped it. I haven't campaigned. I want people to vote their conscience, and I don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable. So if it's their choice to change precedent and loop me in with 3 Confederate turncoats who were expelled for treason and 2 convicted members who were convicted in a court of law, so I'll be the first person to get expelled from Congress without a conviction or without committing treason. And it sets dangerous new precedent for the future to come. It's the demise of this body eventually.
So, I mean, the things that they're saying you did, you deceived donors, providing what they thought were going to be contributions to your campaign, but were in fact payments for your personal use. You reported fictitious loans to political committees to induce donors to give you more money. Used connections to high-value donors and other political campaigns to obtain additional funds for yourself through fraudulent means. Use campaign funds for your own benefit. Did you know at the time how wrong this is?
Bro, oh my God, bro. The laundry list just keeps going and going and going. He is just, Brian Kilmeade is like, hey, I will give you my last name right now, son. Your shit is
Brian,
fucked.
I haven't unpacked this, and I won't unpack this as out of respect to the process that I'm going with the DOJ. For me to go ahead and start talking about this, I go ahead and A, forego my rights. B, I undermine the process and the due process that the DOJ has afforded me. Unlike the Ethics Committee, they've been gentlemen about this. The prosecutors, the judge, everybody has been very gracious and above board. So for me to go out there and start talking about this and unpacking is exactly what my opponents would like me to do, to incriminate myself, to hurt my chances on my criminal.
I've never seen a more guilty person on television in my entire life. I mean, he literally, dude, just say, I'm not going to talk about it right now because there's a case going on. That's it. He literally is just like, bro, he's like, well, you know, I've done really illegal things, like the most illegal things you ever thought about. I'm doing illegal things right now. And because I love doing crime, I don't want to talk about the crime that I'm doing and will continue to do forever. And so, yeah, that's why I won't be talking about all the crimes that I love doing. Because I'm currently under federal investigation. Would you agree to have George Santos on stream? Fuck yes, dude. Are you kidding me? I would love to. George Santos is literally winning the convo by having better eyebrows. I mean, that part is true. Those are not just like regular old eyebrows. Those are eyebrows that the American taxpayers and George Santos campaign contributors paid for. Some of which didn't even know they were paying for that. They didn't even know they were donating to the George Santos campaign, apparently.
Okay, so obviously I won't be answering any of those questions to you today, sir.
Right. 3 money laundering charges, 7 counts of wire fraud, 23 criminal charges overall. So they had a couple of votes. They did not work. This one might be different. Historically, there's only 5 members of Congress who have been expelled. What would it mean to you to be the 6th? How do you process that?
I mean, it's really, it hasn't sunken in.
Say it's homophobic.
But it's really a tough thing to digest. I mean, especially when...
It's homophobic. It's Latinx phobic. Okay? It's anti-Semitic. It's anti-Ukrainian. It's anti-victims of 9/11 and their family members. I am all of those things, and I stand before you, a man who himself was a part. You know what? I've decided I was also a 9/11 survivor in some ways. Yeah. You are behaving in very anti-Semitic ways by coming after a 9/11 survivor who also is Jewish, whose grandparents actually survived the Holocaust, and were Ukrainian as well, simultaneously. It's true. That's what's happening here, and he should say it.
I've come here, all of the work I've done in this body has been above board. Nobody can actually question my ethics and my conduct in Congress, unlike...
Wait, what do you mean? They quite literally can, and they quite literally did. That's exactly what the ethics committee did. Question your ethics and found out that you are deeply unethical. God, he's so delusional. I love him. I love him so much.
Some of my colleagues who are on drunken tirades going after their former staff, but I'm the one being pinned for all of this nonsense. And here I am, like, about to join a long history of due process of people who committed atrocities. Meanwhile, I have been only accused. This is, I have a scheduled I have a scheduled court appearance for September 9th next year to start a trial. That's what's on the books right now. But these guys want an expedient, conclusive decision now. They don't care what the facts are, so much so that they put in the report that I was exonerated from sexual harassment, but then Michael Guest, as an author, put it in his expulsion resolution. It's contradictory to his own committee's work. His committee didn't suggest expulsion, but here he is, writing this on with the Long Island Republicans in New York. And look, that's just hypocrisy at its finest. So yesterday, you went ahead and fired an ethics violation to Jamal.
Trump needs to make George Santos his vice president. I've decided. Many people have talked about like who is going to be the VP. You got it. We know. He's right there, man. He's right there. And he should be doing that not for like any reason. Like, and there's no George Santos constituency other than obviously messy gays, which not exactly a big coalition there, but it's like the entirety of the what's the podcast? Fuck. The not even Red Scare, no. Not Fear End. Well, Fear End, for sure. No, Seeking Derangements. Thank you, Arcanic G. That's the entirety of the Seeking Derangements podcast, the entire fan base of the Fear End podcast. That's pretty much it. It's like we are the George Santos constituency. However, Trump needs to do that specifically for the love of the game. He needs to do it because he absolutely loves people who do cons like this.
Bowman for pulling the fire alarm And you said, Bowman said this in his statement: "No one in Congress or anywhere else in America takes soon-to-be former Congressman George Santos seriously. This is just another meaningless stunt in his long history of cons, antics, and outright fraud." Your reaction?
Well, the reaction is he's a criminal. He admitted to it in court. He obstructed a federal proceeding, and
That's so funny. Like, Jamal Bowman pulling the fire alarm is the worst thing that anyone could have ever done. I say, as I stand before a federal investigation for like 100 different crimes. It's like screeching about a fucking jaywalking ticket, dude. It's fucking awesome. Please do not pay attention to my current crimes. You sound homophobic. True. What's up with your mic? I'm just like cleaning it up a little bit. There's a lot of dirt that is picked up over the years in the little nooks and crannies. So I just want to try and, there's gamer gunk. You know what it is. It's not even anything. It's just dust for the most part.
look, everybody in America knows, had he been a Republican or a member of the general public, he would have been indicted on a felony charge of obstructing an official proceeding, much like the J6ers in Washington, D.C. today.
So I know Matt.
I love that this is what Jamal Bowman did is just like the January 6ers, except the January 6ers shouldn't go to jail and Jamal Bowman should go to jail. What Jamal Bowman did is very similar to what the January 6ers did, okay? And if not worse, but also he should go to jail and we should take out the January 6ers from jail.
Gates says he's not.
And also the January 6th was good. It was good and valid and great.
To vote to expel you. Steve Scalise, Jim Jordan, Lauren Boebert will not vote to expel you. It probably won't be enough. Do you think you're going to get expelled today?
Well, look, I don't know. I've accepted the fate. Look, I believe that if it's God's will to keep me here, I will stay. And if it is his will for me to leave, I will leave, and I will do so graciously.
George, as they roll through all the things you said and everything about working at Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, being Jewish, have you been doing this?
Yes, he hit him with the being Jewish. Come on, dog. That shit's crazy. That's perfect, dude. Oh.
This your whole life, just embellishing and making things up. Is this the first time you've been forced to pay for this?
Brian, look, I can go.
Dude, Kilme's actually doing a great interview for once. I mean, dude, it's impossible. It's impossible to look at George Anthony DeValder Santos, and like try to find something that's defensible. The fact that he was able to get away with it for this long due to like, internal affairs within the Republican Party is a testament to how fundamentally broken the Republican Party is. I mean, he was a liability from the jump. Like anyone could have fucking made that call. He was a massive liability, which we're going to get into in a second, by the way, when we talk about the Jaubrey video, the fraud who fooled America, the lies of George Jebediah Santos.
And rehash everything that I've said, but it's been so wildly documented on all of the questions you just asked. And to the short.
He ran unopposed. No, that doesn't matter. What do you mean? You think the Republican Party doesn't vet its own fucking members? That's crazy. Like, not having... First of all, that's not even true. He ran and lost time and time again. He ran and lost twice, I believe, in the New York area. So the idea that you think that the RNC is just going to dump funds into you without, like, doing their due diligence is crazy.
Short answer is, would I have not said certain things? Would I have done things differently? Absolutely. I'm an adult and I'm mature enough to acknowledge that. But to think that I've built my entire life based on what the media is trying to package over the last couple of months is not fair. It is not true, and it is dishonest. So I have a life. I have people around me who've been in my life my entire life who are appalled at what the media has been doing. So I think that should tell you enough of who I am and my character.
You don't think you brought this on yourself?
Oh, look, in some way, I think we all bring stuff on ourselves, right? I just acknowledge I bear responsibility, but what has been made out of mistakes that I've made in the past that I've admitted to on national television, on this network with Tulsi Gabbard last December, I dare most members of Congress have the same courage to come on here and tell the entire American public on national television exactly what I did and own up to their shortcomings and be humble and have the humility to do so.
All right, and just a final thought is, you expect to be expelled today?
Look, like I said, I don't expect, but I do believe they have the votes. Congressman Lilota said he had 150. He walked it back to 120. Look, 150, 120, the difference is they need about 77 Republicans. If that's the numbers they're dwelling with, I think they have it.
Well, you're my congressman. There's going to be a special election if you're expelled today, and then we'll see. And then we got another election in November.
I hope you have a shot at a conservative, Brian, because you won't know what a conservative looks like on Long Island once I'm gone.
Right, although the Long Island is pretty red. Congressman, thanks so much, and Peter King did have that seat for a long time. Congressman Santos, for now, best of luck.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe.
For now, best of luck. What a great way to send him off.
Republicans from New York are ready to unseat scandal-ridden Congressman George Santos.
The representative is being accused.
What the fuck? Where did this caption just pop up out of? This is like crazy. Anyway, we're watching the Jobbery video.
Use of identity theft.
Wire fraud, false statements, falsification of records.
Scamming a disabled veteran out of money he was raising for his sick dog.
Now denying reports that he once performed as a drag queen in Brazil.
I never claimed to be Jewish. I said I was Jew-ish. Claiming, for instance, he had a role in Hannah Montana.
I'm just struck, not necessarily that a politician would lie, but that you would think no one would find out.
Well, I ran in 2020 for the same exact seat, and I got away with it then.
That photo, by the way, is the greatest snapshot of all time. Like, that is, it goes so fucking hard. It will be remembered for generations. It's one of the hardest going photos out there. Nothing goes as hard, okay? Straight fucking diva shit. So clean, so nice with it. Botox looking perfect. His beats looking snatched, whatever fucking people say, okay? He beat it up. He's slaying. He's the slay queen. He's serving mama. Slay mama. God, he's great.
There's an old saying I find hard to disagree with. Politics is just show business for ugly people.
No, get those lights off! Off!
Nancy Pelosi's gazpacho police.
They're too bright. Turn them off.
Freedom!
Turn off the lights. Turn off the lights.
Through a cynical lens, American politics can be seen as a deranged spectacle for the entire world to laugh at.
The next time you get in trouble, call a crackhead.
Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud.
Wait. I call upon all nations to stop these terrorist killers. Now watch this drive.
A never-ending source of
Jobber just popped off with like some of my favorite moments of all time, including my least favorite moment of all time, where we found out that George W. Bush actually has really good fucking reflexes.
Entertainment that favors vapid theatrics over any actual substance.
How many AR-15s do you think Jesus would have had? Well, he didn't have enough to keep his government from killing him.
What do you say in response to the Pope?
I'd say ISIS wants to get you.
But I'd be lying if I said it wasn't funny. If our country's going to hell, we might as well enjoy the ride there.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to
But I don't think there's a single politician today who epitomizes our government's absurdity quite like George Anthony DeValder Santos.
Is it true that you have an OnlyFans page and you can peel a banana with your feet?
I just discovered what OnlyFans was about 3 weeks ago.
That was a lie.
I was oblivious to the whole concept.
just can't tell the truth. All right, so
You may have heard his name before or seen his picture on the news, and what
Wait, I didn't catch that part. I didn't know she said that.
would be can't tell the truth. All right, so
The whole concept.
you just can't tell the truth. All right, so
Oh my God. Isn't that the VJ, by the way? That literally, God, American politics is so fucking stupid. It's such a dumb fucking. Oh, it's a clown show.
You may have heard his name before.
Gagged him.
Or seen his picture on the news, and well, that would be because George has become one of the most polarizing individuals in all of Congress, but that's not for any traditional reason. He was elected on a number of false
Where's the
pretenses.
TOS?
And I know your response to that may be, doesn't every politician lie, though? To which
149, we passed it. 212, sex toy. We passed both
I
of
would
those
say yes,
TOSs.
but also you've never heard of George Santos. This guy's entire existence is made up. He's lived about 1 million different lives, and as a result has put himself in the crosshairs of the FBI, the FEC, the GOP, the Brazilian government, the House Ethics Committee, and the nearly 1 million constituents who make up his district, just to name a few. I mean, he's facing 23 federal charges as we speak, and there's no guarantee he won't be charged with even more after this video comes out, because when we look into his actual biography, we discover a man who has scammed, thieved, and manipulated his way to the top in a manner so unbelievable, he's had to escape entire countries. I mean, we're talking about an entirely different brand of criminal. He's like a Looney Tune, a Grinch-like figure, as some have suggested.
George Santos just left Tim Burchett's office with a baby in his arms. When asked if it was his baby, he said, "Not yet."
But before we get to anything he did, it's important to establish somewhat of a base understanding of where the man comes from, which I'm gonna attempt to lay out as best I can, but keep in mind, this guy has lied about literally so many elements of his life that it's actually hard to get a straightforward timeline of events. So if anything here feels a bit disjointed, it's because George himself is a very disjointed and confusing person, okay? Not my fault. This is a guy who baselessly claimed his niece was kidnapped by Chinese communists, that he survived multiple assassination attempts, and that he's run a real estate empire on top of meeting Jeffrey Epstein. He's also lied about where he went to school, where he worked, where he got his money, that he was in.
Every group's got that one guy, dude. Every group has to have, first of all, every gay person knows a guy like this, okay? But every group needs to have just a lying guy in general. Doubly fun if they're also a messy gay on top of that. Okay? It's just like, I mean, I've talked about this before, like, when I was in college, there was this dude in our group of friends who would do these, like, unimaginable things, these incredibly impressive things. And after a while, we realized, like, oh, he's just lying, right? He had this like one-up disease. You'd say something like, oh, I went on a jet skiing trip and it was awesome. And he'd have to follow you up with a story that he completely made up and be like, oh yeah, well, I went on a snowmobile and did a flip. And after a while, we started having a little game where we would just like start a story. We'd start a story specifically knowing full well that he's going to fucking, raise the stakes. There's different kinds of liars. You're saying it's giving LeBron. LeBron is like a white lie type of guy. You know what I mean? He's like, I would classify LeBron as a guy who lies about things he doesn't need to at all, but it doesn't even benefit him in any way, and often is doing it for the other person, like for the sake of the other person, like, oh yeah, I love watching your movies, that type of thing. And like, it's a situation that you could totally avoid if you were to say, well, I haven't watched that movie, I'm really sorry, right? But LeBron is the type of guy who goes, yeah, I love that movie, it's my favorite movie of all time, to the guy who made the movie. You know what I mean? And there's no reason for him to do that. Oh, that's my favorite quote. I've actually never heard another quote that I like as much as my favorite quote that is the quote that you just mentioned. And it's like, why did you say that? There is no reason for you to have said that. Okay? Whereas the type of dude that I'm talking about is like pathological and can't stop himself. He can't stop himself, and there's a purpose for it. Hassan talks a lot without saying anything. Well, one, I'm a Twitch streamer, so yes, you're right about that. But two, I think what I'm talking about right now is fairly personable if you have ever had friends. Or even if you've like watched anime, every crew needs a Usopp. There you go. Usopp is a great example. So, like these are the types of dudes who just like lie about regular, banal, nonsensical bullshit things. But then George Santos takes it one step further. He's the guy who lies for gain. But I would categorize him as like pathological in the maximum degree, where he both lies for personal gain, as he has done time and time again, but he also lies when there's no reason to. Okay? He just lies for the love of the game, just to tell a good lie. Which is why he's the best. Okay, this is an incredible conversation.
An actor on Disney Channel into one of my favorites that he produced a Spider-Man musical on Broadway, which is especially bizarre to me because that specific musical he wrongly said he worked on was a commercial failure that lost millions of dollars and even
that's what I mean. Like when you lie, not for personal gain, but you lie in a way that like serves you L's. You know what I mean? That's when you know someone is absolutely just lying for the fun of it, for the sake of being able to tell a lie. You know what I mean? Like, what's the worst thing you can think of? What's the worst movie? What's the worst song you can think of that is just like universally panned by critics? George Santos goes, I played a role in making that. For no reason. For no fucking reason. It's like, well, why did you say that? It just like kind of shows you to be a loser.
Resulted in the injury of several cast members. Why you would want to tie your name to that, I just don't get. Half the time there's nothing to be gained from these lies at all. In a 2022 congressional debate, he actually stole his opponent's answer to the question, what's your favorite holiday tradition?
Oh, this was awesome.
In front of him.
So Mr. Zimmerman, name one of your favorite family traditions.
New Year's Eve, my nephews and I, my brother and sister-in-law, get together in our sweats, watch a stupid holiday movie, some sort of stupid comical holiday movie, and eat the food that we shouldn't eat all year round. Haagen-Dazs is always a staple.
Mr. Santos, your favorite family tradition?
Our favorite family tradition is just family time. It doesn't matter if it's a Tuesday night or if it's a Sunday night or if it's Christmas. It's sweatpants, pints of Haagen-Dazs all over the place.
He literally copied bro's own family tradition right down to the
Yeah, he to his face. To his face. I love that. Like that's so disrespectful. That's so ridiculous. To his fucking face. He's just sitting right there. I love that.
This man's a fucking menace. But where does it all begin, right? Well, even that's the subject of debate. As the story goes, George Santos was brought into the world on July 22nd, 1988 in Sunnyside, Queens, and was raised in a basement apartment in Jackson Heights. And if we're going off this Wikipedia biography for a user named Anthony DeValder, last edited by him in 2011, we would learn his drag career began at 17, winning several gay beauty pageants between making the rounds at Brazilian nightclubs before going into acting on various Disney Channel shows, and landing a role in the 2009 film The Invasions.
For the record, Wikipedia editor, some of them are the strongest soldiers, and many of them are fucking insane. Okay? That's a red flag. If you're a Wikipedia head mod, that's a red flag.
Starring Uma Thurman, a movie that doesn't exist. All because he was inspired by the Steven Spielberg film Independence Day, which Spielberg didn't make. So this biography doesn't actually clear anything up, unfortunately. In that case, what do other people tell us about George? Well, as his former coworker, Barbara Hurtis, told Patch.com, he used to tell us he was born in Brazil, and that he would travel back and forth, and that he came from money. Which we know for a fact that George has lied about coming from money. Once telling a judge he worked for Goldman Sachs in 2017. The reason he was in court, by the way, was so he could testify on behalf of a family friend who ended up pleading guilty to ATM skimming and later told the feds that it was George who taught him how to do it. But that's a different story entirely. The transcript here is hilarious to me because when the judge asks, "You worked for Goldman Sachs in New York?" George's response was just, "Yup," which in hindsight was a bold-faced lie, one of many that he'd actually copped to once.
Like, a lot of this stuff is just resume padding, right? And it probably gets lost in the sea of other lies. Like, my favorite types of lies are not George Santos saying he worked at Goldman Sachs, which is so verifiably untrue and so easy to verify, especially if you're running for fucking Congress in New York. Are you kidding me? Like, you fucking accidentally wave your hand around, you're gonna slap a couple fucking Goldman Sachs workers, okay, in that circuit that he's a part of. It's wild. However, that's not his best type of lies. His best type of lies they're the ones where he says things like he was a varsity athlete for the volleyball team and had a horrific injury that stopped him, but he can still play really well and he will actually play on the intramural the intramural Congress volleyball team. Shit like that blows my fucking mind. It's like, it's so specific. That's such a specific lie. And you have to follow through on that. It's like the top of the hour ad break. It's coming for you. You know what I mean? And when I say it, it has to be the truth because I'm going to serve it. And you're going to see it unless you subscribe. I'm not going to lie to you about that. Because at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. Now, of course, you can get a subscription. You can subscribe on your own, or you can get gifted a sub to avoid it. The Raging Hoppa, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. Here's a 3-minute ad break now.
He realized there was nowhere else to run. Before beginning his political career, or any career for that matter, we know George was living near Rio de Janeiro with his mother in 2008. Or he may have been living in the US and visiting his mom in Brazil, as some of his friends have now stated, but that's a detail. The point is, he was around 20 at the time he stole the checkbook of a man his mother had been caring for and used it to rack up around $1,300 in fraudulent checks, according to Brazilian court documents. To make matters worse, this elderly patient his mom had been working as a caregiver for was deceased at the time George took his checkbook and forged his signature in order to buy luxury clothes for his boyfriend. And
excuse me, he wasn't using it. Hello? What is he gonna do? Take it like a pharaoh? Take it to his grave with him? Yeah. I'm sorry. He stole from a dead person. Yeah, it's the best type of person to steal from.
Despite him insisting he's committed no crimes in America or abroad, Brazilian police records indicate a different story. That George actually confessed to the crime over a decade ago, not just pleading with the store owner through a Brazilian social media platform, but eventually appearing in front of authorities in 2010 and admitting to the fraud alongside his mother, while also telling him he was a white professor, according to police documents. And I think one of the wildest discoveries I made while researching this video is the fact that his lawyer for this was reportedly convicted for his connection to a gang-related murder and was defending George while on house arrest. That is just something you can't even make up. As far as the store owner goes, he recalls having to pay for the stolen items out of his own pocket at the time, recently telling Mother Jones how visibly deceitful George came across. Now, George didn't acknowledge the fraudulent checks again until this year when he agreed to a $5,000 settlement and a confession in exchange for avoiding prosecution. The reason he he just now settled this thing is because when Brazilian police tried to subpoena him originally in 2011, George was mysteriously nowhere to be found. He wasn't with his mom. It turns out he wasn't even in the country because, I guess, for whatever reason, George decided to leave Brazil behind right then and make a new name for himself up north in the land of opportunity.
I mean, he did go to the one place where you can kind of pop off. Like, America is a collection of con men. It is a country built around being able to con other con men. This is the greatest place to be if you are a con man. We literally had Donald Trump as president. And the perfect place as a con man to actually thrive, the perfect field, the perfect sector to thrive as a con man is politics. So he kind of did all the right things.
Much like Connor Roy, I don't doubt George Santos was interested in politics from a very young age, but he didn't become very vocal about them until 2019, giving his takes on the hot-button issues of the day on Facebook, along with schmoozing Republicans at various events and fundraisers.
Today was a blessing for me as a patriot to come down here to Mar-a-Lago.
During these early days before he was really established, George made appearances at Mar-a-Lago, donated tens of thousands to the New York Young Republican Club, and attended CPAC, where he likely caught COVID at the very start of the pandemic in March 2020. This, to my knowledge, is the first time anyone in the media had even uttered the name George.
He made the Hajj. Yeah. It's one of the pillars of being a conservative. You have to do the Hajj. You have to make dua underneath the disgusting golden arches, okay, of Mar-a-Lago. You have to.
Santos on live television.
He even got COVID. Like, that's it. That's perfect. Getting COVID at CPAC is a blessing.
Guest tested positive for COVID-19 and joins us via Skype in quarantine. Welcome New York congressional candidate George Santos. George, great to see you. How are you feeling right now?
I'm in recovery.
And it was also shortly after he launched his first congressional campaign running for the U.S. House of Representatives in New York's 3rd congressional district. George was going up against the incumbent Democrat Thomas Suozzi, who ended up taking the win by a surprisingly narrow margin, actually.
2 weeks after Election Day, Democrat Tom Suozzi has won re-election representing New York's 3rd congressional district. Suozzi had 53%, Republican challenger George Santos 47%.
Traditionally speaking, the Nassau County Republican Committee would otherwise be pretty strict about letting a newcomer into the fold with such minimal political experience, but the pandemic dissuading anyone else from running, coupled with the fact that the county had moved more towards the left in recent years, meant George was kind of the sole Republican candidate and became the nominee by default. And while his campaign would inevitably prove unsuccessful, it would give him the chance to mingle with constituents and work the media circuit, essentially priming his voter base for a grand return in 2022.
Hi everybody, George Santos here, running for New York's 3rd congressional district. I will fight socialism until my last dying breath because I despise it. Socialism has been tried in every country and failed miserably, and I count on you to send me.
I love how fucking stupid Americans are, dude. You could just say these things and then they will literally be like, hell yeah, brother. No questions asked. That's, god damn it, dude. Oh, fucking Christ. It's just so mind-boggling to me that people still go, Hassan, you're a leftist grifter after all this shit. It is so easy. It's so easy to grift. It's just literally in the opposite direction of the way that people think. Ah!
To DC to represent you. We need as many volunteers as we can get for this process. I think it's about time we put Thomas Suozzi into the retirement section.
In many ways, this race was a way for him to make an impression, which he certainly did, networking with the Trump family.
Like, not to use a Family Guy reference, but that 9/11 bit is so prescient, dude. This is it, dude. This is it. Just substitute that for, like...
Try giving short, simple answers.
Mrs. Griffin, what do you plan to do about crime in our city?
A lot. Because that's what Jesus wants. 9/11 was bad.
I agree with that. What are your plans for cleaning up our environment?
9/11.
What about our traffic problem?
9/11.
That's it.
And buying entire tables at young Republican events. What's pretty funny though is that despite all his efforts, George didn't even live in the district he was trying to represent. And when reporters pointed this out, George claimed an address that in actuality belonged to his campaign treasurer. That same treasurer who would later admit to fraud and to implicate George in a scheme to embellish his finances, but trust me, we'll get to that too. It was also during this first congressional run that fellow candidates in other districts began to wonder how legitimate his fundraising claims really were. There seemed to be a pretty wide gap between what he said he had raised and what he had actually reported on campaign finance disclosure forms. As congressional candidate Josh Eisen told Intelligencer, I would look into his filings and see that he had raised almost no money. Everybody in politics exaggerates a little bit, but he was saying he had a 6-figure quarter, and it would turn out that it was a 4-figure quarter. One consultant plainly labeling him a walking campaign finance violation, and that it's been reported George came up with ideas to try and avoid campaign finance law, with one scheme that would allegedly involve getting donors who had maxed out their donations to him to give to the political action committees of other candidates, who would then funnel the donation back to Santos, as Intelligencer states. But these things weren't explored in depth at that time, because
My favorite thing is just doing campaign finance violations in a country that has made it legal. Okay? It is so unimaginably hard. It's like getting arrested as a foreign agent. Just fucking, if you're going to lobby the government as a foreign agent, like they let you do it, unless you're AIPAC, in which case, of course, you don't need to register as a foreign agent because it's the American Israeli Political Action Committee. So it's different. Obviously, don't say that they're foreign agents. Do not say that AIPAC represents the interests of Israel, a foreign nation. Do not say that. That is anti-Semitic. Don't ever say that. Oh, wait, did Benjamin Netanyahu recently just meet with the heads of AIPAC? That's neither here nor there. Anyway, but again, I digress. It's just like half of the stuff that these goddamn criminals get arrested for is basically not filing the right paperwork. Okay? It's just so fucking funny. It's like, how do you get arrested, or how do you get prosecuted or investigated for this kind of thing when the law has made it legal?
He was still so low profile enough that nobody really cared to look into him, honestly. His opponent figured, why waste money and resources on a background check that could end up giving George more exposure when he could otherwise just kind of cruise through an easy win without all the hassle. So in fear of Streisand affecting the young Republican, Suozzi opted not to prioritize opposition research, keeping George's lies under wraps for at least a couple more years.
Democratic Congressman Tom Suozzi sees a victory on the horizon, banking on 90,000 absentee ballots. A newcomer to the political scene is singing a very different tune. The 32-year-old Queens native who works in finance credits his current lead in the vote to an underestimated campaign which connected with voters.
Directly following his marginal loss in New York's 3rd District, George Santos was furious, believing he had actually...
I said George Santos. Because he was, get it?
He won the race. He began to allocate money and staff to a recount that never happened, along with accusing the county's GOP chairman of sabotaging his campaign because he's gay. According to Intelligencer, some of his own staff members were starting to worry about his mental health when he reportedly suggested finding a way to somehow throw out Democratic ballots as they came in, a hysteria that culminated when he went.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's okay when Trump does it, but it's not okay when George Santos does it at an incredibly low level. Excuse me. This is why I'm saying Donald Trump needs to literally make George Santos his vice president. Okay? Perfect fit. Perfect VP. Perfect VP. Okay? Trump Santos has a nice ring to it. Just saying.
Went to Washington, D.C. to attend an orientation for new congressional members, even after it was abundantly clear he had lost. Refusing to leave the room even as Suozzi was announced the winner. And if that wasn't enough, he'd then make a speech at the stop.
What are you doing? He attended the orientation.
The Steele rally one day ahead of the January 6th riots, arguing his election had been stolen from him, just like Donald Trump.
I remember this part. This was awesome.
They did to Donald J. Trump. They stole my election.
Watching that rally from home was one of George's former roommates, who couldn't help but notice the Burberry scarf he was wearing looked a little familiar.
While they were roommates, Greg Morey said Santos stole his Burberry scarf and later wore it during the rally ahead of January 6th.
That's awesome.
I saw that video and I just not very happy.
Those campaign finance problems I mentioned earlier, though, would absolutely bleed into his second congressional run in 2022. The successful one, which means people actually looked into this stuff. For instance, we know he was spending lavishly on the second campaign trail, racking up around $40,000 in flight expenses, buying his staffers expensive clothes while still treating them like shit.
Also, once again, you know, we got a situation. We got a situation on our hands that is also identical. Who amongst us does not have that gay friend who just steals their expensive clothing? You know what I mean? I'm just saying. The parallels are there. Austin doesn't lie, though. That's the difference. And Austin is nowhere near as... I mean, he's messy and he loves drama, but it's nowhere near...
shit, apparently. He also had a tendency to spend $199 at restaurants and hotels, which is just under the legal threshold of $200 for expenses that campaigns are legally required to track. To give you an idea of how rare an expense like that would be, FEC data shows 90% of all House and Senate races across the country did not report a single transaction between $199 and $199.99 in 2022. While the Santos campaign, on the other hand, reported 40 of them. In fact, Politico states that George's campaign accounted for roughly half of all expenses by all campaigns that cost exactly $199.99, a statistical improbability. Not to mention the countless donations from people who either don't exist or don't recall sending George any money. His cousin, for example, was dumbfounded by a pledge for $5,800 that he says he never made, adding to the overall mystique of how George managed to scrounge together a $700,000 sum he loaned his own campaign in 2022. But we'll explore all that and more in just a second. What's important right now is that he won, partly thanks to his district being redrawn 6 months before the election to include a much more Republican area. He was already running unopposed, which made him the Republican nominee, making it easy for him to beat the Democratic nominee Robert.
This is why I suspect people were coming in here and being like, well, wasn't he running unopposed? Doesn't matter, brother. You don't give money. You don't get any fucking RNC donos without like a little bit of background checks. I mean, normally, which is why I'm shocked. Like he had to have been the luckiest motherfucker out there. I don't understand how he just got away with so much.
Robert Zimmerman in a newly red region. This redrawing of the county lines was truly the best thing he could have asked for. It was a gift. But unfortunately, everything to come after this would be the exact opposite of a gift.
We picked him up pretty early as a fraud and a braggart and a liar, which, you know, you come across sometimes in politics, but he was off the scale.
But first, a brief word from our sponsor, Fume. Fume is a flavored air device that uses plants and behavioral science to help you trade out your negative habit for a positive one. Fume uses cores infused with plants such as
ethical reacts. We're doing ethical reacts.
Fume uses no nicotine and no vapor.
Ethical reacts.
Plant-flavored air.
Shouts out to Jabri.
Bad habit and enjoyable experience.
We are watching Jabri, friend of the show, Jabri's The Fraud Who Fooled America, The Lies of George Santos video.
Stopping is something
very good video overall.
But Fume aims to
well
help with
sourced.
that. Having served over 150,000 customers with thousands of success stories, there's no reason that can't be you. Head to tryfume.com/Jabri or scan the QR code and use code Jabri to get 20% off your order today. But I've got to warn you, that 20% off deal only lasts through December 1st, so you better hurry. Otherwise, it's 10% off, which is still pretty good in my opinion.
Oh
But,
no,
what
it's
are you
December
waiting for?
1st.
Go to tryfum.com FUNDAY.com and use code JAWBRY when you check out. Huge thanks again to the wonderful people over at Fume for sponsoring this one.
So now, Nassau County legislator Josh Lafazan
It's a fake vape for all of you fucking vape heads out there who want to quit vaping, I think.
has launched a new campaign with county residents to keep track.
To be fair, kind of a wild thing to call yourself, like call your brand Fumes. Like when I think of fume, I don't think of good things. I think of like nasty air.
Of Congressman Santos, kind of keep an eye on him and his whereabouts. He's calling it Where's George?
By the time George made his acceptance,
That means we have to watch the ads. Who says that? It's the Hasanabi style guide. If a video has come out recently, then that means that like their CTR campaign is still happening, like their direct response campaign is still happening. So it's valid to watch their ad. If it's like an old ass video, of course, like we'll skip it because that it doesn't matter. They're not getting any dollars off of that, or they're not getting any like the campaign is over most likely.
speech on the night of November 8th, 2022, exactly 1 year apart from me typing this now, the man was already beginning to raise eyebrows. Turns out his own campaign had actually been made aware of his shady past in 2021 when they conducted what's known as a vulnerability study, basically a routine background check to see if there's anything in a candidate's past that an opponent could potentially latch onto as an attack. Well, George's history was so bad that some of his own staff reportedly urged him to step down. The complicated web of deceit this man was spinning for himself was so blatant and shameless that his own paid employees were telling him he'd be better off just fading into obscurity. You know how crazy that is? But of course, he didn't listen, and by December 2022, just 1 month after he secured his seat in the House, these lies would finally catch up to him in the form of a New York Times article laying everything out for the public to witness. This investigation revealed how Citigroup and Goldman Sachs—
Far too late, by the way. Far too late. Too little too late. Crazy that it took that long.
Sachs had no record of a man named George Santos or Anthony DeValder ever working there, after he had already bragged to voters about his plentiful experience on Wall Street, going on to prove he never attended Baruch College, where he at one point claims to have slayed on the volleyball team.
I actually went to school on a volleyball scholarship. You did? I did, yeah. When I was in Baruch, we were the #1 volleyball
Did you graduate
team.
from Baruch? Did you graduate from there?
Yeah.
So did I.
I did.
So did I.
Oh, very cool. So, great school, great institution. Very liberal, but very good professors who don't show their bias, which is very interesting, but that's a whole nother conversation. But it's funny that we went to play against Harvard, Yale, and we slay them.
This one's pretty funny to me because he spoke at length about playing on this team, all while knowing damn well he never even attended the school.
And it's funny, I was the smallest guy, and I'm 6'2". Look, I sacrificed both my knees and got very nice knee replacements from HSS. Playing volleyball. That's how serious I took the game.
In fact, he never even received a degree from higher education, despite claiming on the National Republican Committee's website that he once attended NYU, meaning he never attained an MBA and never scored a 710 on the GMAT, as he's also specifically liked to claim. Then there was the pet charity he liked to cite on the campaign trail, founding Friends of Pets United in 20.
It's so awesome. This is like a old 17th century folk story, comical levels of evil, okay? Like, it's the one thing white people can't fucking stand, like, is abuse towards animals, like orphaned pets, okay? It's so good. Yeah, I mean, literally, Cruella de Santos, Cruella de Vil.
13. George spent the next 5 years saving 2,500 dogs and cats out of the goodness of his own heart, as his website claimed. Only subsequent reports have found this thing wasn't even registered as a charity in the states of New York or New Jersey. One of the only remnants of this thing the Times could verify was a Facebook post promoting a fundraising event in 2017. But the beneficiary of that event claims to have never received the funds funds, and that George kept making up excuses for why he didn't have the money. I mean, he was definitely facilitating the adoptions of these dogs, but where he was getting them from is a whole other story. Past associates of his claimed he would brag about rescuing dogs off the streets himself, while this Amish dog breeder in Pennsylvania paints an entirely different picture. According to him, George showed up to his ranch looking to purchase some puppies, writing 9 checks totaling out to be about $15,000 that the farmer grew suspicious of. But by that point, George already had the dogs in his car, so he took the gamble, and shockingly, the checks bounced.
Have you gotten the money back?
No.
Have you heard from anybody about it?
No.
Do you believe this is the man who bought your dogs and put them in the car and took them away from you?
I feel it is. Based on my memory, I would say yes, it is.
3 days after this, George attended a pet adoption event in Staten Island. According to a former owner of that business, George had literally, allegedly, stolen puppies and would actually be charged for check fraud in the state of Pennsylvania in 2017. The only way he got out of that was by telling prosecutors he worked for the SEC and had his checkbook stolen. Somehow, this worked, and even his lawyer friend, who believed him at the time, has since told CNN she no longer thinks George was the victim of any fraud. And if you're wondering what happened with that adoption event, George reportedly took the check written to his charity, crossed out the name of the charity, and replaced it with his own, cashing it out under Anthony DeVolder. Then there's, of course, the story of disabled Iraq War veteran Richard Osthoff, who alleges George...
Come on, dude. Come on. Like, stealing the puppy of and refusing to help the puppy of a disabled homeless veteran. Come on.
George scammed him out of $30,000 that was meant to go to his sick service dog. According to Richard, George ran off with the money raised by a GoFundMe, resulting in his dog Sapphire being unable to receive life-saving surgery for her tumor, tragically passing away.
You were homeless at the time.
I was homeless at the time. I had broken an ankle really bad, couldn't work for a year and a half, so I couldn't pay my rent, and I was evicted. I was living in a tent on the side of Route 9 in Howell, New Jersey with my dog. And she had already had that growth growing.
I'm sorry, you can't help but laugh, dude. He did so much. It's like, at that point, it's like comically evil, man. It's comically evil. It is cartoonish. There's no reason to do these things.
It was getting bigger and bigger by the minute, it seemed. I finally decided to take her to the vet to see what they could do to have it removed, and they gave...
Bro, homeless disabled veterans cancer dog, okay? Homeless disabled veterans cancer dog. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing here?
$3,000 quote.
Richard says he was first introduced to George's charity by a vet tech, and that George seemed confident he could get the funds needed to save Sapphire's life.
He said he was very respected with his charity. It would help me very much to get the money in a sooner amount of time than later.
Through George, or Anthony DeVolder's charity, Richard's friends and family all pitched in to help, along with his old Navy buddies and even strangers who he had never heard of. Watching this thing gain traction over the course of a couple months must have been really encouraging for Richard to see, and for a moment it really seemed like Sapphire, a dog who had saved his life on multiple occasions, would finally receive the treatment she needed. But according to him, George complicated things, only allowing Richard to go through his preferred veterinary clinic in New York rather than Richard's local one, which wasn't the easiest for Richard considering he was homeless and couldn't drive at the time. But George assured him he'd at least make up for it by paying the tolls and gas money, which he never did. Richard never got any of the money, in fact, and about 4 months later is when Sapphire passed. Of course, if you listen to George, though, it's all a big distraction and that he never...
The reports that I would let a dog die is shocking and saying my work in animal advocacy was a labor of love and hard work. Over the past 24 hours, I've received pictures of dogs I helped rescue throughout the years along with supportive messages. These distractions won't stop me. God, the GOAT. Truly the GOAT.
Never allowed a dog to die, providing it 0 pictures, by the way, of all the pets he supposedly saved, but whatever. How are we supposed to believe him here when he's also presented no evidence he did any charity?
It's not even a real 501c3. Like, he was just... God, oh my God, he's such a fucking con man. It's so perfect. He is the perfect person to be in American politics. And here we are fucking dropping the ball big time, dude. Letting this one slip. Like, how are we not allowing this man to continue?
Work for kids with skin conditions like he's previously claimed. According to his old campaign website, he and his family engaged in helping children with EB, but as executive director of Deborah of America, a global consortium of organizations working on behalf of people with EB, who knows, quote, all the global EB charities, notes, there is nothing in their database or general records to indicate George and his family's volunteerism at all. Even SOS EB Kids, who advocates for children with EB in Brazil, has found no records of George's family ever donating to their organization, which is probably why this line about helping kids with EB was removed from his website entirely and replaced with a more generic and difficult to verify line about
Why? Like, why are you picking these things, okay? Why are you doing these things? I just don't get it. He's never said a truthful thing.
Him supporting at-risk children and American veterans, but still never actually showing any proof. The Times also brought up George's alleged $750,000 salary and over $1 million in dividends from his company, the Devolder Organization, which not only has no—
By the way, this is what I said was like gonna pop him, which it did. For the record.
No public LinkedIn page, but its address appears to be at a Florida mailbox store located in a strip mall next to a Dollar General and a Chinese takeout place. Yet George would describe this thing a few different ways. Once referring to it as a family firm that managed $80 million in assets, before later calling it a capital introduction consulting company. The disclosures revealed it had no clients, which could be illegal if any clients did exist, but would also be pretty bad if they didn't, because what actually was this thing? And more importantly, where did all his alleged fortune come from? Well, right now, nobody knows, since he's never given a straight answer, but he'll tell you where it's not from.
One of the principal critiques I've heard is that a lot of money was donated to your campaign by you, $700,000, I believe. Where did it come from?
Well, I'll tell you where it didn't come from. It didn't come from China, Ukraine, or Burisma. How about that?
Fucking got him, dude. Yeah, two normal guys just having a chat. Nothing to see here. Just two normal guys having a chat in front of a Jesus poster. You know, with live, laugh, love all over. Moms for Liberty fucking mug in the background too. Also another very normal. Please don't look up the high-level pedophiles that work for Moms of Liberty. Very normal stuff happening here. Okay? Just a normal-ass podcast with two chill-ass dudes in Congress that certainly are not both under ethics committee investigations and subsequent federal investigations, as a matter of fact. Just two guys having a laugh, having a chat. God, the Republican Party is awesome. I mean, the Democratic Party, too. Fucking Bob Menendez. Oh, I love American politics so much because, you know, when I'm covering ethnic cleansing happening in Gaza day in, day out for, you know, what, 5, 6, 7, 2 months now at this point. 2 months. Endlessly. You could take a breather and take a step away from that to go back to covering normal American politics. And it's just a fucking whole ass clown show.
Well, yeah, that is an answer.
Great, man, but that's not the question Matty Boy asked now, is it? And while George liked to talk up a big game about his family fortune being in real estate, the Times found no evidence of the Santos family owning any properties at all, despite him claiming up to 13 residential properties at one point. Instead, they uncovered a string of evictions George faced, beginning in 2015 when he owed over $2,000 in unpaid rent, then again in 2017 when another landlord accused him of owing $10,000, being fined at $12,000.
Some of his crimes are based like this, though. Like, just like refusing to pay his rent. I respect that. Like, stealing from other Republicans, love that. Stealing from Republican voters, love that. You know, and what do you do with the theft that you engaged in? Purchase OnlyFans, support sex workers, support Sephora. Maybe that part is whatever. But like supporting sex workers, love that. He is a bit of a Robin Hood in many respects.
in a civil judgment. Though as the Times points out, George did become pretty vocal about housing issues in later years, just not from a tenant perspective. Asking in 2020,
he was a landlord's activist. Will we landlords ever be able to take back possession of our property? My family and I nearing a 1-year anniversary of not receiving rent on 13 properties. The state is collecting their tax, yet we get zero help from the government. We worked hard to acquire these assets.
Will we landlords ever be able to take back possession of our property? He really said, I'm joining the war on landlords on the side of the landlords. But of course, this is something he later fessed to as well, telling the Post, George Santos does not own any properties, even though he once claimed an apartment in Rio de Janeiro on a financial
Bro, he's LARPing as a landlord. He is so perfect. He's the perfect neoliberal in many ways, you know? The quintessential neoliberal Democratic Party voter. Hates the Republican Party despite agreeing with them on everything as it pertains to the economy. LARPing as a landlord while not owning any fucking... He is a r/neoliberal poster. He's gay. Okay? He's gay as hell. And on top of that, he is posing as a fucking landlord when he has no properties and is actually behind on rent by $10,000. Oh my God.
Disclosure form. Also, why is he talking in third person here? But I just think it's hilarious. He'll literally LARP online as a landlord if it means getting a few retweets. Hilarious stuff, honestly. No notes. But I mean, over the years, George has claimed a lot of jobs that he couldn't.
He's also a Ukraine Globe Twitter guy too. Oh my God, he literally is. He is an r/neoliberalism poster, dude. Oh my God. You're right. He LARPed as a Ukrainian too. Huh.
Prove he actually
second
has.
thought video drop.
Goldman Sachs
we'll watch it later.
Of them, but he also tried saying he lost 4 employees at the 2016 Pulse nightclub shooting in Florida.
That was insane.
At the time, have people that worked for me in the club. My company at the time, we lost 4 employees that were at Pulse nightclub.
Only the Times was able to review the obituaries of those lost that night and found no connections of them to any purported businesses George claimed to even be involved with, which is like an extremely easy thing to prove. All of this stuff is. I mean, he was making $15 an hour at a Dish call center at the same time he was telling people he was working as a rich financier on Wall Street. It's just that nobody looks into it until it's too late and he's already in office. He was, however, involved with a company called Linkbridge in 2019 before shifting to an investment company called Harbor City Capital,
both scams,
based in Florida, which already should raise some
scams, both of them.
Red flags. What the Harbor City? This thing was a Ponzi scheme. It literally used YouTube videos to bait investors with false promises of double-digit returns before being shuttered by the SEC. To this day, George claims he had absolutely no idea of any illegal activity happening while there, and I have no reason to doubt that. This is a guy with a clear conscience and a reputation for being honest. What more can I say?
This is his very first TV interview since these accusations surfaced.
I'm not a fraud. I'm not a fake. I didn't materialize from thin air. I worked damn hard to get where I got my entire life.
Needless to say, this article revealed a lot, but George retaliated hard, providing copious amounts of documents and files on top of files to prove the undisputed legitimacy of every single one of his original claims.
One problem I have with Jabri is that like his beats go extra hard on the background, and I just constantly fucking find myself bobbing my head. You know what I mean? And like half the time, it's not funny stuff like this. It's like gruesome crimes, and I'm just like bobbing my head while he's talking about like how, I don't know, like a YouTube mom has been doing child abuse or something.
Kidding. Well, his lawyers slammed the article as a smear campaign riddled with defamatory allegations. George never did come up with any evidence to defend himself with. In fact, to make matters worse, almost immediately after this thing was published, Jewish Insider would reveal some pretty damning information regarding his family tree.
I think one of the questions that really probably hits home to a lot of people is are you Jewish?
See, George was known to flaunt his supposed Jewish heritage in front of voters, painting it as a story of survival, tenacity, and grit, as he put it at a Jewish coalition conference, for example.
Oh, good morning. Shabbat Shalom to everybody.
He talked about it all the time to voters.
You know, my grandparents survived the Holocaust.
Jewish lasers in space. I'm a Jew, trust me.
He was literally at a menorah lighting the very night before the New York Times article dropped. He made no secret that his maternal grandparents fled Jewish persecution in Soviet-led Ukraine before escaping the Nazis in Belgium and finally settling in Brazil. Until it came out that his grandmother was actually born in 1927 and would have been 13 by the time he claimed she left Belgium in 1940, while married to her husband. It would also seem George's grandfather was, by all indications, Brazilian, according to a historian from the University of Rio de Janeiro who specializes in the entry of foreigners in Brazil from 1939 to 1945. Exactly the time frame we're looking at here, which conflicts with the initial story that his grandfather escaped Stalin's Ukraine in the 20s. In fact, according to the historian, only 2 foreigners entered Brazil from Belgium by the name of de Valder, but they arrived separately after the war in 1948 and 1955 and left pretty soon after. Though he did acknowledge George's great-grandfather, who arrived in Brazil at the end of the 19th century, according to an extensive genealogical record of the Santos family. Finally concluding, George has an interesting family history with nice and important people. I suspect he doesn't have the slightest idea of this. For that reason, he invented ancestors.
Now again, multiple family records show your maternal grandparents were born in Brazil, and a genealogist told CNN there's no sign of Jewish and or Ukrainian heritage and no indication of name changes along the way.
It's my favorite thing because, like, it's awesome that he wanted to hit the full Monty. Like, he was like, I'm Jewish, I'm Latinx, and I'm Ukrainian. Like, if there was another fucking war happening, he would have added that onto the pile 100%. Okay? He wanted to hit all the categories. It's so perfect. Like, if China had fucking put, I don't know, Taiwan under a blockade, he'd be like, I'm actually Taiwanese. Many people don't know this, but I am from Taiwan. Yeah, that's right. If he was running now, he 100% would have called himself Israeli. Oh, absolutely. Like, if he was running for the first time right now, he'd be like, I am literally from Israel. My family is from Tel Aviv, and I lost so many of my friends and family members. They are from Kibbutz Be'eri or some shit.
At that point, George had been cornered. He went from basically being gifted a seat in the House of Representatives on a silver platter to becoming enemy number 1 of the media before he was even sworn into office.
Within the ranks of the United States Congress, there's felons galore, there's people with all sorts of shiesty backgrounds, and all of a sudden, George Santos is the Mary Magdalene.
He's not wrong about this, though. He is right about this. The only difference is, like, he's not wrong. A lot of these fuckers are assholes. They're crooks. They're criminals, right? It's just that, like, I guess they are nowhere near as, like, wild as George Santos was. Like, his crime, his real crime, is that he went too far because he just had love for the game.
Of United States.
Yeah, as Spencer Ackerman put it, not unique, but he is exemplary. Exactly. Much like Henry Kissinger. Not unique, but certainly exemplary.
Breaking his silence the day after Christmas with an appearance on WABC and an interview with the New York Post, telling the Post, I am not a criminal and that my sins here are embellishing my resume. I am sorry. Chalking his lies about Wall Street up to a poor choice of words and admitting he never graduated from any college, adding, we do stupid things in life.
Elon went too far and nobody goes after him. It's because Elon at least is doing what, first of all, Elon lies all the time. But he lies in a way that actually benefits his shareholders. Like, if he actually lied to his shareholders directly in violation of the law, okay, and then it hurt the company, at that point, especially if he didn't have any real money, right, then he would actually get into trouble. Then he would actually get into trouble. The thing is, like, as long as he doesn't violate his fiduciary responsibility And he can just keep lying as long as the fucking lies end up benefiting shareholders, which it does. Which it literally does. Like all the time. He literally did get in trouble when he said he was going private at 420. Yeah, I mean, that did happen. Oh, also, we'll talk about the Cybertruck in a second. I don't know if this is what the... Here I am, the richest man in the world, Philosemite, climate crusader, and I still get shit from idiots. What? Megaphonics. There's so much better shit that you could post about Cybertruck and how it doesn't have fucking crumple zones and how it's just like, it looks like a death trap. And instead, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? Classic Megaphonics. Had to post an unrelated ass, silly ass Elon meme. Okay? Why'd you have to do that?
Before finally hitting us with the quote of the year. In his interview, George told the Post, "I never claimed to be Jewish, I'm Catholic. Because I learned my maternal family had a Jewish background, I said I was Jew-ish." But that's just not even true. The man literally called himself halachically Jewish just a month before the election at a US-Israel PAC meeting. Literally, nobody thought he meant Jewish. He clearly wanted people to think it, whatever. I feel foolish just trying to understand any of this. Am I right?
No, the Jew-ish thing is like, that is the closest, unironically, he's ever gotten to being actually Jewish. Okay? His entire fucking saga surrounding making up like Holocaust grandparents from Ukraine, specifically to get Ukraine clout and Jewish clout, is so Larry David, so fucking certified Larry Davidian, that it actually is the closest he has gotten to being unironically Jewish. Like, it's perfect.
Yeah, am I right? And of course, this was also around the time he had some old Facebook comments resurface, along with this leaked audio of him.
Wait, what? I didn't know this one.
Around the time he had some old Facebook comments.
What? He said, hi, what? Somebody... What? What is this?
Comments resurface, along with this leaked audio of him.
You sit in a room with a lot of Jews, you're fucked. In new audio, George Santos imitates his district's Jews.
Doing what he considers to be an impression of a Jewish man, I guess.
You sit in a room with a lot of Jews, you're it's funny when the isms start coming out, right? Oh, he's such a man, she's such a man, and then they go on to the next thing, and it's like, oh, that's a point, it's really bad. But anyway.
I have no idea how this is real.
What? Yo. Okay, I want to congratulate Jabri for bringing up new information that even I did not know about George Anthony DeValder Santos. I'll just say that. That's shocking to me. I fancied myself to be the formative George Santos historian. You know what I mean?
Broader media attention, though, meant deeper investigations into George's murky biography. Before long, even his own past relationships came up.
Do you still stand him now? Yes. Are you kidding me? We just talked about how he, like, basically facilitated in the death of a motherfucking homeless, disabled veteran's cancer dog. That is, like, that's it. On the list of, like, comical crimes that you can conduct. That literally is Disney villain. Disney villain status. Okay? And I stand him after that, so this little tidbit about him trying to do, like, I don't know. I don't know what he was trying to do. Like, some anti-Semitic joke that he was trying to make. Like, nothing.
under scrutiny. First, with the Daily Beast being unable to find any official marriage license for him and his husband in the state of New York, with some also pointing to his lack of wedding ring the day he first arrived in Washington. The first time most people even learned he was married at all was when he mentioned his husband in passing as a part of this tweet commemorating the late Senator Dianne Feinstein, which I loved because
excuse me. Yeah, hard launching.
Launching your partner at the beginning of a memorial tribute. It's an act of insanity only George Santos could pull off. Following up a few days.
There's no better way. He did not do the classic soft launch of being like, showing another man in his Instagram stories or anything like that. He just went nutty with it. Dianne Feinstein is dead. Also, me and my husband, who I'm married to, we loved her.
Later with this official confirmation that the two got married in 2021. But as some replies have pointed out, this isn't the first time George has been married. His first marriage lasted 7 years and was with a woman from Brazil, to which there's also currently an investigation into whether or not he violated immigration law in marrying her. One of George's openly gay friends told the Daily Beast that he tried to get him to marry some Brazilian woman so he could get her citizenship, and that George told him there was money to be made from an arrangement like that. Truly not sure what the fuck that's about, but we know for sure George officially divorced his wife in 2019, a year before his congressional bid and 5 years after he supposedly proposed to a man in 2014, sending out a Facebook invitation that read, "Good evening, everyone. As you all may already know, Pedro and I have decided to join our toothbrushes. LOL, and a very few friends have been selected to share this special moment with us. I hope to see every one of you there and to be sharp and make it count. I know there was no time for a written invitation, but thanks to Facebook, everyone has a whole week's notice. LMAO, for all of you that know me, I can suck on timing. Thanks for sharing this very important day in our lives. See you there." This party never actually happened, as his ex-boyfriend Pedro Villarva unfortunately rejected George's proposal 3 times, as he told the Daily Beast, reinforcing the idea that George would routinely engage in relationships with men years before he legally left his wife. In response to any speculation on his sexuality, George told the New York Post, "I'm very much gay. I'm okay with my sexuality. People change. I'm one of those people who change." And while we're on the subject of change, it's also been reported that George was once a supporter of left-wing Brazilian President Lula, according to one past acquaintance.
What the fuck? What?
Would be in stark contradiction to the man we know George to be today. Instead of spearheading progressive bills to expand and protect the rights of the LGBTQ community, for example, George was a vocal...
No, this must be a lie. I don't want to think about that. I want to think about this as a lie. I'm booking this as a lie. This is a classic George Santos lie.
Supporter of Ron DeSantis' infamous Don't Say Gay bill, which has been widely condemned by activist groups as staunchly homophobic and unconstitutional. Even after George seemed to maybe change his mind on this later and denounced DeSantis' rhetoric as to diminish and remove rights from...
I guess technically you could have, if you can have like Bernie supporters who are Brazilian that love Bolsonaro, it goes in the other direction as well. You know what I mean? You have like Trump supporters who love Lula, I guess. I don't know how. Remember the fucking fighters that we looked at with Felix, who were like major Bernie supporters, who are also major Bolsonaro supporters? Probably only supported Lula when he thought Lula was corrupt. No, I mean, I don't know.
From people like him, he made it clear he still supports the bill in nature. Not sure what part of it he supports, but he hasn't exactly garnered a reputation as an activist by palling around with some of the biggest homophobic monsters in politics, I can tell you that. Which is especially sad when you consider the drag queen allegations.
Today, like well every day, we have new evidence of lies in the case of Republican Congressman George Santos. Now, Santos has vehemently denied reports, as well as videos and photos that Two sources told MEC News show him participating in drag shows.
One of the top stories you may have heard if you're already familiar with George Santos is that he supposedly once performed in drag under the name Kitara Ravache, at least according to Brazilian drag artist Eula Rochard. In January 2023, she made this post to Facebook captioned,
It's like, this part is actually such a funny part of the saga because, like, Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani did drag. Like, Donald Trump didn't personally do it, but he participated in the drag where he, like, motorboated Rudy Giuliani's drag titties, and that was far closer to Trump's election and re-election than this, right? Like, in the 90s, everybody was fucking doing drag, in the early 2000s even. Like, it was a classic thing. It's just so fucking stupid. Like, it is a new phenomena, folks. Here, for those of you who haven't seen this shit, here you go. I'm gonna fucking pee real quick while I loop this.
You know, you're really beautiful. And a woman that looks like that has to have her own special scent.
Oh, thank you. Maybe you could tell me what you think of this scent.
I like that.
This may be the best of all. Oh, you dirty boy, you. Oh. Donald, I thought you were a gentleman.
You can't say I didn't try.
Mayor Giuliani, he's given away over $2 billion in corporate wealth.
You know, you're really beautiful. And a woman that looks like that has to have her own special scent.
Oh, thank you. Maybe you could tell me what you think of this scent.
I like that.
This may be the best of all. Oh, you dirty boy, you. Oh.
I'm glad you guys got to watch that twice because that shit deserves it. Is worthy. Anyway, but I digress. The point I was trying to make is that it was super commonplace. People fucking, it's a new phenomena. People are so stupid. They get so quickly primed into hating things by Republican media, especially as it corresponds to broader reactionary framing on an issue. It's like Americans are so comfortable at abiding by new reactionary standards without even considering whether they themselves have participated in it in the past, in the not so distant past, as a matter of fact. Like those, what was it? There was like a bunch of cops that did the, wait, I think it was literally, what's his face? Oh, it was the Steven Seagal thing. Remember? Steven Seagal in Louisiana, Jefferson Parish. The cops themselves literally went and fucking did a drag race to raise money. And that was like 2005 or something. Like, it wasn't that long ago. My point is, that was 25 years. He's been doing drag for 25 years. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that Americans are so easily duped into getting mad about shit, especially when it's reactionary framing. Another example of this would probably be how quickly we got back on the Islamophobia train. You know what I mean? Like 9/11 happens, Islamophobia goes crazy, goes nutty with it for like 20 fucking years. All right. And then there was a brief moment where it's like maybe Islamophobia is not the hot thing anymore for like a couple of years. Boom. Right back at it like we never left it. It's so easy.
me with the American Republican congressman who wouldn't leave my house in Portuguese. Whoever said I was a liar, bite your tongue. Implying the person dripped out in red feathers and long earrings next to her to be none other than Representative Santos. The images originally appeared in a Brazilian newspaper in 2008 and were substantiated by an unearthed interview in which one journalist alleges he spoke to George as Kitara nearly a decade prior.
A bandeira desorganizadíssima, muita pouca gente, subúrbio, né? Não é Rio, a bandeira não tem bofe nenhum.
Now, I don't know Portuguese, but those who do have commented down below that he's talking about all the various clubs he used to perform at in Rio, which to me reinforces that old Wikipedia user biography that referenced Anthony DeValder's successful stage life as a drag queen. Eula even told NBC that she knew George at a time when he was coming up in the drag world, and even acted as somewhat of a mentor towards him, along with citing his outgrown sense of grandeur and claiming he lied all the time. Initially, George responded to these claims with absolute and utter denial, writing the most recent obsession from the media claiming that I am a drag queen or performed as a drag queen is categorically false. The media continues to make outrageous claims about my life. Though a few days later, as he was leaving LaGuardia Airport, George had changed his tune, telling reporters, I was young and had fun at the festival, sue me for having a life, which quite honestly is the most human thing I think he's said so far. Had he just been honest about it from the start, I don't think this would have been the same story. What I don't understand is that George can be honest about this, but still repeatedly lie and change his story when it comes to other personal details about his family, for instance. Even as George made several amendments to his biography as more lies were exposed, there was one notable detail that remained a part of his website throughout it all: that his mother, Fatima DeValder, died in 9/11, which, by the way, was already a subject of debate because in classic George Santos fashion, he initially worded his mother's death in a way that made it seem she passed in her office when the World Trade Center was attacked, until later when he clarified actually she survived the initial attacks but passed away a few years later when she lost her battle to cancer. Only further reporting has indicated that Fatima DeValder wasn't even in the country in 2001. In a visa application she filed in 2003, Fatima states she had not been to America since she—
Okay, but 9/11 was a troublesome time for her in Brazil. Like, I'm sorry. Yeah, she stepped on a Lego that morning, like it wasn't, and then fell. Like, could that not be the case? Are people not allowed to be traumatized anymore? Thank you. What if she just felt really sad about 9/11 and it traumatized her?
She left it in 1999, and in another filing just 3 months before the attacks on the World Trade Center, Fatima explained she couldn't come to America because she had her green card stolen in Brazil. These are the words of George's own mother, whose son would later go on to lie about the nature of her death years after her passing in 2016, all for the aim of, I guess, appearing more human? Having such a personal connection to a tragedy that not only affected so many Americans, but specifically New Yorkers, would undoubtedly lend him more credibility among voters in that region. But lying about such a thing also has the potential to irreparably ruin that image in the eyes of those same constituents.
While the Washington office of George Santos is up and running, protesters gathered outside his vacant Douglaston district office, mounting calls to resign from voters who say they were duped by a candidate who fabricated virtually all of his qualifications. Great Neck voter Jody Cass-Finkel has launched a bipartisan petition.
We got a con man, we got a liar, we got a charlatan.
Holding Pinocchio figures, voters say Santos is thumbing his nose at constituents by his silence.
For some reason, I don't really know why, there's a lot of people that don't like George Santos and want him completely removed from politics altogether, as evident by Nassau County Republican leaders who—
homophobic, anti-Semitic, pushing Z-ass, pro-Russia, 9/11 lovers, okay? Yeah, exactly. Those are the people, haters. Us, on the other hand, at the Hasanabi broadcast, we know George Santos would never watch Top of the Hour ad break. He would not. He would actually, as a matter of fact, gift subscriptions to all in the Hasanabi community with his campaign contributions that he illegally got. so we could gift members in the community the opportunity to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour. There's a 3-minute ad break coming now. If you have not received a gift to sub from George, Anthony, DeValder, Santos, then all you need to do is subscribe for $5 or free. Here's the 3-minute ad break now.
All called for George's immediate resignation the week following his inauguration, with several other New York representatives in the House urging the same. The reason the House Majority Leader at the time, Kevin McCarthy, opted not to take action, though, probably had to do with the fact that Republicans only hold a narrow majority at the moment, and need pretty much all the seats they can get.
George Santos, previously subscribed for 2 months, hasn't chatted. Anthony DeValder also is another community member. He's got both of his identities, both of his accounts.
And this is all despite one of George's fundraisers being indicted for impersonating a McCarthy aide on the phone to a big donor, but that's actually completely separate from George's own personal legal problems. Being issued one of 2 federal indictments in May of this year, with 13
Fox
counts including
Steve, thank you for
wire
the 5
fraud,
get the
money
subs.
laundering, theft of public funds, and lying to the House. His biggest mistake may have been using campaign money to pay for personal goods. And it's not even that he did it, it's that he did it the wrong way. Legal loopholes found within social welfare groups or leadership PACs.
This is the absolute best and funniest problem. The American legal structure allows him to do all of this, and he just didn't do it correctly.
Regularly.
Dinesh D'Souza style? Yeah, more like Dinesh D'Lulu. Fucking got him.
Help politicians get away with the exact type of thing George was doing. It's just that instead of using a real social welfare group or a 501c4, he set up a regular business and falsely told donors it was a 501c4. That business, Redstone Strategies, which wasn't even registered with the IRS, had nothing to do with his campaign and everything to do with his bank account, as stated by New York Times contributor David Firestone, who notes that this business,
which is incredibly illegal, dude.
Business was wiring funds directly into George's personal bank account, which is like insanely illegal, man. You could have gotten away with it too if you just were a
pre-watched.
Bit smarter about it, but I digress. At this point, even his own campaign treasurer, Nancy
To be fair, Jobber is a Hasanabi head, so.
Marks has flipped on him. As I referenced earlier, Nancy pleaded guilty to 1 count of conspiracy to defraud the US by committing 1 or more federal offense, according to CNN. Overseeing the Santos campaign finances, Nancy told prosecutors in October that, quote, I filed a first quarter 2022 report stating that $500,000 was loaned to the campaign by co-conspirator 1 and the money was not received at the time. Co-conspirator 1, of course, being George. Implicating him even further, and Nancy confirmed, I did these things in agreement with co-conspirator number 1 for his benefit and to obtain money for his campaign by artificially inflating his funds to meet thresholds set by a national political committee. Her testimony came just days before George was then indicted a second time, with U.S. Attorney Breon Pierce stating Santos is charged with stealing people's identities and making charges on his own donors' credit cards without their authorization, lying to the FEC, and
which apparently quite literally included Republican congresspersons and their mothers, okay? And their moms. Please understand something. That's cool. You gotta hand it to him. You have to give it to him. You have to let him have that. He's chasing the fucking bag. He's getting his money up and not his fucking funny up. I respect that.
By extension, the public about the financial state of his campaign. Santos falsely inflated the campaign's reported receipts with non-existent loans and contributions that were either fabricated or stolen. So, among other things, George is now being accused of stealing the personal identities of donors to make over $44,000.
By the way, it's pretty fucking awesome that he has all of this shit dead to rights, and he's still just like chirping on Fox News in the interview that we just watched against Brian Kilmeade, like, no, Brian, I will not kill you. You know, I actually did nothing wrong and everything I did was awesome and correct.
in charges over the course of 8 months without their knowledge. Because these donations often exceeded federal campaign contribution limits, George would just say the money came from his own finances, which wasn't true. At one point, allegedly charging one donor's credit card $12,000 and just sliding the majority of it into his own bank account. I mean,
like that. Okay, well, let's talk about that for a second. So, one, when you're doing crimes, what you're probably not supposed to do is trigger agencies, okay? You're not supposed to trigger, like, even one agency. You have the FBI, you have the I guess you would, in this circumstance, it'd be the FEC, right? The problem is, he did something that would bring in multiple, the SEC as well, the IRS. He brought in every single agency possible to the fucking table. Like 12,000 immediately triggers alarm bells, okay? Now you got the FBI looking into it. The fact that he did not stay under the legal limit for what kind of campaign contributions someone can make to a campaign. Also, ridiculous. Like, not only did he go over the legal limit of campaign contributions from multiple people, including a Republican congressperson and his mother, he also fucking hit above 10K. And when you go above 10K, automatically it triggers something in the bank that will, it triggers something within the FBI that are going to look into your bank account now.
It's so sloppy, it's ridiculous. And throughout it all, he still says he's not taking a plea deal, maintaining it wasn't him and that he can still prove his innocence. Well, it's almost a month and a half later, and we're all still waiting on him to do that. Despite all of this, and even after stepping down from his committee assignments in January, George has continued voting on bills regularly, looming in the background of hearings, usually keeping to himself, in between getting chewed out by Massachusetts Senator Mitt Romney.
Romney telling Santos in that chamber, "You don't belong here."
He's a sick puppy. He shouldn't be there.
It wasn't very Mormon of him.
He's a dilf.
That's not to say George can't hold his own in the good Twitter spat. Trust me when I say he's good at popping.
God damn. What the fuck? What the real life?
That's not to say George can't hold.
Hey, Mitt Romney, just a reminder, you will never be president.
His own in the good Twitter spat. Trust me when.
Unlike Santos for Congress, I didn't have to lie to get elected. My credentials are clean. I'm actually Jewish, and unlike yours, my diploma from Harvard is real. Real, like your chin. Wait, didn't this guy literally have like a disability, by the way? If I recall, I think he's just like... It's pretty awesome. I mean, let him fight. Like, it's awesome.
When I say he's good at popping off at random people, beefing with this random guy on numerous occasions just for the sake of it, everyone's coming after him. I mean, that's why he must see himself as our generation's Rosa Parks.
Mitt Romney, the man goes to the State of the Union of the United States wearing a Ukraine lapel pin, tells me, a Latino gay man, that I shouldn't sit in the front, that I should be in the back. Well, guess what? Rosa Parks didn't sit in the back, and neither am I going to sit in the back.
His allies in the House seem few and far between at the moment. Sure, he's got Marjorie Jewish Space Lasers Taylor Greene on his side, but he's also lied about his interactions with other members like Kristen.
You gotta, that's a classic. You gotta have like a black iconic human rights leader that you, in the silliest way possible, compare yourself to. That literally is at the foundation of like white supremacist reactionary politics in America. Amy Schumer did it like last week. Don't you remember? Amy Schumer was like, MLK would love the genocide and ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. And you guys are basically shitting on me. When you're shitting on me, you're shitting on Martin Luther King.
Cinema, who he claimed was very encouraging and welcoming to him, while she insists that two have never spoken, which has got to make you feel a little bad for the guy.
Ooh, that's crazy. Even when you lost to Kirsten Sinema, well, I guess Kirsten Sinema was like, you know, allegedly may or may not have been blowing Mitt Romney's mind. So she's more on the Romney train than she is on the motherfucking George Santos train, that's for sure.
George isn't a saint by any means, but has he really committed any crimes? Yes, are you fucking kidding me? Yes, yeah, he's being indicted on 23 charges and has a trial date set for September 2024, 2 months ahead of when his re-election would have been had he not suspended his campaign following the most recent developments from the House Ethics Committee. In other words, it's never been more Jover.
If this building, if this city put the effort to fixing our country the same way that they put on expelling me, we'd be in a better place. But this place is...
Why is he putting that shit on, dude? He's like, his face has gotten more powdery. He kind of looks like, what was the fucking Australian comedy, the What We Do in the Shadows? Like, he looks like a vampire from that fucking show at this point. I don't know what's happening there. I don't know what it is. Not Australian. Sorry. It's fucking Kiwi, mate.
The same way that they put on expelling me, we'd be in a better place. But this place is littered in political theater, and the American people are the ones paying the price.
In the time it took me to make
He also could be pulling a Sammy Sosa, but I don't think so.
this video, Thomas Swazi, the Democrat whose seat George took over, has since launched his own campaign with the intention of winning back his original seat. But to be fair, it never felt like George enjoyed the job anyway. The most excited I've ever seen him get is when he was asked a question about the latest season of RuPaul's Drag Race. I mean, he just never seemed super jazzed about being in the House beyond the money he temporarily earned from his campaigns.
Congressman Santos, who do you think is going to win Drag Race this season? This season. I have no idea. You gotta read up.
I don't know if he even wanted to win. I mean, just think about it. Having to constantly deal with reporters hounding you with questions every time you step outside your office must be annoying. Getting little to no respect from anyone at your job must be rough. And to know there is only 7% of the country who wants you in government has got to be brutal. For reference, there are more people in America who think the earth is flat than want George Santos in office. He was never gonna stick around long, I'm sorry to say. But that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy the ride.
Yeah, because one is true and the other one is false. You know what I mean? Yeah, the earth is flat. So, of course, there's more Americans that believe... What? I'm confused.
Usually our politicians are only corrupt in boring ways. George, however, at least kept us all on the edge of our seats, waiting to see what new wacky development would come next. He funded a trip to Atlantic City with campaign dollars? Nice. He misused funds to buy OnlyFans and lip filler? A man of the people. He might be going to federal prison for falsifying finance reports? Classic George. That's not to say he isn't a horrible person. He is. But if we're gonna have horrible people in our government, they might as well be horrible in ways that are occasionally entertaining. He may not be in the House for much longer, but he will be a representative of the be gay, do crimes community forever.
I got my ticket for the long way round. Lots of energy, guys.
Oh, God. He put the karaoke performance in there, too. Let's go.
Let's have fun. Fun. Yeah. Go. The one with prettiest of views. And I sure would like some sweet company. And I'm leaving tomorrow, what do you say? When I'm gone, you're gonna miss me when I'm gone. You're gonna miss me by my hair. You're gonna miss me.
Oh my God,
everywhere.
this is where y'all stole that meme from?
When I'm gone. You're gonna miss me when I'm gone. You're gonna miss me by my walk.
He's not bad. Shut up. You're fucking ridiculous. Okay. Anyway, incredible stuff from George Anthony DeValder Santos. We are gonna move back into Israel and its bombing campaign in Gaza for a brief moment until we move on to some fun stuff. This is something I got to cover. The 7-day truce is over. Is Jover. I'll do the debate after this. One final George Santos meme, please. I made it. Bro, you want me to watch a Cap Wing video? What the hell is going on here? That's it? This is homophobic. This is homophobic. This is anti-Semitic. Stop dancing. Cease your dancing. Cease your dancing now. George Anthony Devalder Santos is an American and Brazilian hero. Stop your dancing. Democracy was on the ballot. And now it's dead. Are you doing okay, buddy? Yes, I will be doing okay, buddy, later. Disrespectful. So disrespectful. He's Ukrainian. He's Jewish. He's a 9/11 survivor. Anyway, here's John Fetterman actually having a decent take for once.
You've also been calling to get rid of Menendez, I know. But first, before we talk about that, what's your reaction to the expulsion?
Well, it's like I'm not surprised, but to me, I think the more important picture is that we have a colleague in the Senate that actually did much more sinister and serious kinds of things. Senator Menendez, he needs to go. And if you are going to
why, dude, I swear to God, Allah is punishing him. He sounds so much more clear and coherent when he's fucking not talking about Israel. I'm not even kidding. He's so good. He's right on the Menendez shit. He's right. He's absolutely right. Look at him. Listen to him talk. There's actually clarity there. He sounds perfectly fucking fine. The moment you ask him about Hamas, though, he's just like, he slinks his head down into his chest and he's just like, Mr. Hamas, you need to stop it.
Expel Santos, how can you allow to somebody like Menendez to remain in the Senate? And, you know, Santos's kind of lies were almost, you know, funny. And like, you know, he, you know, landed on the moon and that kind of stuff. Whereas, you know,
wait, what did he?
Menendez to remain in the Senate. And, you know, Santos's kind of lies were almost, you know, funny. And like, you know, he, you know, landed on the moon and that kind of stuff. Whereas, you know, I think, you know, Menendez, I think, is really a senator for Egypt, you know, not New Jersey. So I really think he needs to go. And especially, it's kind of strange that if Santos is not allowed to remain in the House, you know, someone like that. Yeah.
Are you, though, uncomfortable with the fact that there hasn't been an adjudication that...
It is pretty wild that he's saying that, though, because, like, I mean, yeah, there's a couple different reasons. Like, one, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize Bob Menendez's crime was dick riding Egypt instead of Israel. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, okay, it would kind of fuck up. I guess it really wouldn't. No, Bob Menendez should go, actually. I mean, of course he should. What the fuck am I have no takes on that. He's right about
While
that.
he's been charged, there hasn't been a conviction. With Menendez.
I am. And it's like he has the right for his day in court and all that, but he doesn't have the right to...
Always with the phone? I'm not even on my phone. What are you talking about?
To have those kind of votes and things that that's not a right. And I think we need to make that kind of decision to send him out.
Bro's on The View, it's over. I mean, Bob Menendez's son voted to expel Santos. This is homophobia and crime discrimination. How to coup any country, ordinary guide, ordinary things. What the fuck is this? This seems awesome. It's just very long. Yes, I know. Henry Ford versus Karl Marx. Epic battles of history. I know.
Again with breaking news overnight from the Middle East. It's not good.